All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Kyle Dine, and thank you for joining us today on this really important topic of traveling with food allergy. About half of it is going to be tips, the other half is going to be motivation, trying to give you the boost that you might need to book the ticket, whether it's for a big trip or a small trip. Whatever trip that you're looking at taking is a big step in your own food allergy journey or your family. So, welcome. So glad that you can join. I am the CEO of Equal Eats, which I'll tell you a little bit more in a bit, but we specialize in translation cards for people traveling with food allergies all around the world. We have an ongoing poll here to see what your dream travel destination is, and I'm just so inspired to see the results of this. Everything from Japan, other countries in Asia, even to beautiful states like Wisconsin is on there too. So whatever your dream spot is, I'm sure there's a really great reason for it, and I love seeing that. Right now, one of my dream destinations is Jordan. I would love to see Petra, that city, and just all the archaeology and beautiful history that you can see in Jordan. So we'd love to know, just by show of hands in Zoom, you have that little hand up button. Who here is a parent or a caregiver of a child with food allergies, an individual food allergies? Yeah, I think that might be the majority here. And I'm sure there's other people watching this that might just be an individual that has food allergies himself. And whether you are a parent and or a spouse or a caregiver or a relative or an individual, whatever your relationship with food allergies, it's good for me to know. But there's going to be something for everybody during this presentation. A little bit about me, who on earth I am before we get going. So first and foremost, I am a guy with food allergies. I have several food allergies. I'm allergic to peanuts, tree nuts. Looks like I'm growing out of egg allergy. I'm allergic to some fish, a few shellfish as well, and one that's on the rise for me is mustard seed. I'm a food allergy educator. That is my passion. I love going to schools and educating children about food allergies, and not just kids with them, but kids without them, and teaching them how they can support their friends and keep a safe school environment, and develop empathy for those that are different. So I go on tour once a year for a month, and I get to spread the word of education. Also, the founder of Equal Eats, where we create food allergy translation cards. And thrilled to have Tracy on the webinar today, who is part of our Equal Eats team. So that's at equaleats.com, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later on. I have traveled to quite a few places. I'm from Canada originally, and right now I'm actually in the US. I'm in my beautiful sunny Miami, where I've been living the last few months. So been really neat to travel around this area of North America. A lot of the time of the year I spend in Slovenia. I'll tell you why that is in a little bit as well. Sweden has a real soft spot in my heart. I've been to a lot of countries in Europe. I've been to Africa with Morocco, Central America. I have not been to South America. I would love to. I've not been to Australia. I still have a lot of places to go, but somewhat well traveled. Learned a few things along the way, especially with food allergies. So looking to just share that knowledge with you. I'm a food allergy baby through and through. Right from the get-go, eczema was part of my cards that I was dealt. Really severe eczema. I had to be hospitalized for it. It was quite intense. Asthma, had the ventilator, had the mask, where I had to, sorry, nebulizer, where I had to have um, a lot of help with that throughout my childhood. And food allergies, the trifecta here. And there's my individual special cake that I would have at every single birthday and event, my special plated meal, and things haven't changed that much with food allergies for me. Asthma is much more controlled. I'm doing pretty well with asthma, but when I have a flare up, oh, it's annoying. Eczema, I won't give you a close up on camera, but if I got too close, you're going to see a little bit of red blotches there where that's stayed consistent. I use a lot of cream, so I get it. I've been part of the allergy march, just like many of you who are watching have experienced in one, two, or three of these realms. All have their own challenges. For travel, food allergies is very unique. It's very unique. There's when we go across the world, we're dealing with a lot of food, with eczema, asthma. It's more management of our medication prescription, so very important. But I'll be focusing primarily on food allergies today. That is me on the left, I don't know, 11 years old, thinking I was pretty cool back then. I had my fanny pack, there was a couple EpiPens in there at the time. I've got my Timex watch, look at that. My style hasn't changed that much over the years. Isn't that crazy? And my medical alert bracelet. There's this the zoom in. It looks like a People magazine shot there, zooming in. But I've always been very mindful of my allergies, especially when I was a kid. My parents really um, uh, instilled a lot in me from an early age. Uh, you go through the years, I got into traveling, and nowadays I travel quite often all around the world, but there is a lot that happened in between. As a teenager, I took a lot of risks with my food allergies. I had a really significant anaphylactic reaction when I was 21 years old, and it was my wake-up call. It made me realize that I needed to do better with my food allergies. So I I went from someone that my parents took great care of as an adolescent to a risk-taking teenager, had a wake-up call, and went right into a very vigilant adult, which I am still to this day very outspoken advocate for myself and for our community. We all have different journeys, and for me, travel was not really a thing when I was a teenager. I was a homebody. Travel was intimidating. There was all of these unknowns. So it wasn't until my early 20s that I got into it after that experience. Um, who here has traveled internationally? Food allergies. I'm sure there are a few that are here that are watching. Awesome to see. I know that there's some great experiences out there. Fantastic. And whether you are traveling across cities or state lines, or you are entering Zimbabwe, you're going to a different country. There's a little something for everybody in this presentation, and it's okay. It's okay wherever you are at in your journey with travel and food allergy. Uh, you don't need to feel pressured to go to Zimbabwe or Australia or Paris or anywhere other than where you're feeling comfortable going next, because it is a process. And that's what I'm going to really stress tonight is that this isn't something that you go 0 to 60 on. This is something that you build comfort, you build strategies. My first international trip to Sweden when I was 20 years old, it was a fiasco. I really did not plan accordingly, and I remember arriving and just seeing Tony the Tiger, Frosted Flakes in the grocery store, and I just ate Frosted Flakes for the first week as I got situated and learned what I can eat in Sweden. So, horrible student diet of just cereal, but I managed and I learned a lot. And every subsequent trip, I've managed to eat better and learn a lot more about advocating for myself to see more and experience more. The one quote I want to really harp on to start off with about traveling with food allergies is that it is not easy. I'm going to say it right up front. If it was a cakewalk, this wouldn't need to be a presentation. We don't have presentations on other people and just normal travel. Traveling with food allergies, it is not easy, but it is doable. It is doable, and not only that, it's worth it. And that is what I'm going to really try to stress as well, is that all of this work, all of this planning, it would be easier not to do it, but it is worth it. So never for one second think that this is easy street, that someone else that's doing it is having no problem with it. It's a lot of work for all of us. You're not alone in that. So it can be done, but where on earth do you start? Uh, I'm a big fan of using the visualization of growing my bubble or my circle of comfort. That's me in the middle there. I've got my nice little circle of comfort. As a teenager, I felt very comfortable every summer just staying at home, playing baseball with my friends. I didn't want to expand much that circle of comfort. But when you start to go to a new restaurant, go to a new state, go to a new country, you're starting to break those bridges, those barriers on yourself when you start speaking up for yourself, experiencing new situations that you otherwise might have been nervous with proper planning, that circle of comfort starts to grow. And that's why I say don't go 0 to 60. Start slow, go, grow your comfort zones one by one instead of going from homebody to jet setter. It's a process, and that's completely okay. So I'm going to split up this whole presentation into plan, learn, go. Pretty simple. How to plan, all the things that we should be thinking about. I'm going to get in some deep tips about what some of the learnings, some of the different policies, airlines, accommodations, and then my rah rah at the end, go go go, which is really the motivational speech element of this presentation. So I'm going to take you on a tour, and hopefully it's going to give you some inspiration and motivation along the way. So let's start off with plan and most importantly, dream, thinking big in terms of where we want to go. That's what it's all about. So maybe, maybe it's different for everybody. That going to see amazing history, Roman Colosseum, maybe it's landscapes, geography is interesting to you, or culture and arts, or food, cuisine. Probably not the most common for our food allergy community, but whatever it is, finding that inspiration for you. For me, it is a mixture of history and geography that really gets me going, that makes me want to travel. I appreciate culture, food. It's more of nutrients. That's my relationship with it. But I love seeing beautiful spots. I get to a city, I go right to the water every single time. I remember even going to Minneapolis. I just love going right to the river. It gets me a sense of situation, of being situated there, and the power of that of nature. So for each their own, but whatever it is, try to find your sweet spot because when you go to somewhere that you really ticks off your boxes, it's making it more worthwhile for you. That it's a place that you really want to go to and go to other places like it. So last chance to scan that code, and you can I can put the link in the chat as well and contribute to that dream destination word cloud. It's pretty neat to see where everybody wants to get off to, which is really inspiring. Okay, in terms of planning, we have a nice comprehensive checklist at Equaleads that is my go-to because it's chronological, and I like this because it helps me along that path of when I'm booking to months before I actually travel to a week, even to the day of my trip. There's just so many things to think of and keep on track of that this is a really handy little list. I put the link there in the chat. The QR code links to it as well. So having a plan that you can at least check off and make sure that you are on board with all of these things. I'm going to go through a lot of these individually, but essentially at the start, doing your research on airlines, on bookings, accommodations, with a month ago, starting to get all of your ducks in a row with medication, emergency plan updated. But 1 week to go, checking with the airline, making sure you've got all of your research done with restaurants. Maybe you're contacting them, having supplies ready. On the day of, you're talking to airport staff, you're packing your sandwiches or whatever it is to stay safe on the plane, carry on luggage, your doctor's note, safe snacks, antibacterial wipes. So all great ideas to be thinking about. Is this going to be true for everybody? No, it's a general list. So hopefully it's mostly helpful for you. So there's that you can download, keep on your phone. You can print it out, and there's a few close-ups of it. So I'm going to break it down into a little bit more detail in terms of what you need to be thinking about in advance of the trip. Up-to-date medicine. Up-to-date medicine. Yeah, bring extra epinephrine with you. Make sure it is not expired. It's a great idea if you can have it labeled. Perhaps you have a doctor's note associated with it. This This is hit or miss. Have I ever been asked to show a doctor's note when traveling? No, absolutely not. I only had one issue with my epinephrine overseas, and it was trying to get into a hockey game. True Canadian, trying to see hockey everywhere. And I got patted down with security, and they found my EpiPen. And there was a language barrier, and they said, what is this? And I was trying to get through to them. I said, EpiPen, EpiPen. They had no idea. And then I told a little lie. I said, um, insulin. And he said, "Oh, insulin." And that did it. So I got in the hockey game with my insulin. So be on your feet, do what you got to do sometimes. But having a doctor's note, not a bad idea. Have I heard examples of people needing it? Some, but a very, very small minority, very small. Travel insurance. So really important, expect the best of your trip. Expect the best. You do still need to plan for the worst. I don't like to talk about the worst case scenario too much, but we all know it, and we all know how serious food allergy can be. So we need our ducks in a row. Travel insurance is part of that. I just used travel insurance today in the U.S. because I'm not from around here with my daughter who was sick. So we had to go through the whole hospital system, and it was a great experience for us just to know that travel insurance works. I know if I ever have an anaphylactic reaction, exactly what needs to happen every step of the way, who to call, the numbers, at what point in the day if an emergency happens. So she's okay. Thank you. So make sure it covers anaphylaxis. It can get tricky with pre-existing conditions. They might be asking some detailed questions about that. Do I have one that I would recommend? Alliance is one that has some more specific food allergy wording and policies. So I posted a link there, Alliance, ALLIANZ. That is one to definitely check out. So for each their own, if you have other ones, please leave them in the comments. We'd love to know which insurance you use. Thank you, Tracy. She is okay. It was just one of those things that, as a parent, you overreact sometimes, thinking something small might be something big. And luckily, we had one doctor say at the start, it could be something big. And then the one that actually did the x-rays and all that said, no, it's nothing big. So thank you. Phew, one of those days. Expecting the best, planning for the worst, another part of that. Yeah, Tracy, right. Better to overreact than underreact. I agree. So having an anaphylaxis emergency plan, wherever you are in the world, look to your national nonprofit group or the body of allergists, immunologists, where they might have your emergency plan for your country. FAIR in the US has a really, really helpful one. Make sure that this is updated and that you're refreshing it for everyone. So everyone's on the same page that you're traveling with about the symptoms they're looking for. Uh, at what point are you enacting your emergency plan with which some symptoms, how to use the epinephrine, whether it's AuviQ, EpiPen, Emerade in the UK, and make sure everybody's on page with that. Know where the nearest hospital is, and most importantly, communicate to those traveling with you. And I say here, get real. Get real. What does that mean? Well, I've had reactions um, domestically, at home, and also traveling. I am not who I normally am when I have a reaction. And if you've seen yourself or your child have a reaction, you've probably noticed they're not themselves either. My head goes 100 different places, from what on earth, scared, to denial. No, this can't be an allergic reaction. Um, and I think it's so important. It's a weird tip, but to get real with the people that you travel with and let them know, I might be acting weird. I might be trying to talk you out of helping me because I don't want to make a scene. I might not be rational. And I think that is being real to who you're traveling with, and you owe it to them. So hard conversation, but when you tell people with that type of honesty, what happens in an emergency, that is when they're really willing to help you. So don't be shy about kind of getting real with that situation. We have emergency cards with Equal Eats that can help let other people know you need help. You can scan that QR, it shows it in 50 different languages. So, helpful tool, but most importantly, is letting other people know in advance of what happens in an emergency and what to do so they can help you. Accommodation. Oof, it's getting tougher and tougher to choose these days. You got Airbnb, home rentals versus hotels versus resorts and cruises. Hey, this is your own preference, but with each one, doing your research. I love hotels. I love having a hotel with a kitchenette. I also always have a sponge with me and paper plates. So I always have kind of my own uh, control over that situation. I like Airbnbs as well, but again, uh, sometimes a little less control. It's a used space sometimes. It's not as clean as sometimes I hoped it would be. So I've had hit and miss with that. Some really great hits, a couple misses. Cruises, resorts, calling ahead, talking to the staff. They usually have some great protocols in place. But this is something where you can start asking before booking. So a great idea to be making that as part of your research process. So each one of these we could dive into further and further. If you have questions about them, experiences, would love to hear more. Jill in the chat says we run everything through the dishwasher before using in Airbnbs. Great idea. Just for dust alone, you don't know when the last guest was in there. So absolutely, and just getting any type of proteins that might be left behind. Really great tip. Thanks, Jill. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a paper plate fan. I've got some Halloween plates right now that I'm currently running through, but they're just good to have on hand. All right. When packing food, talking about food for your trip, oh my goodness, look at that picture on the left. That is me with the most glorious mountain of schnitzel sandwiches. If you are ever so lucky, I will make you a schnitzel sandwich. They're an absolute specialty. Um, I might get some help from my wife's mom. She's a true amazing cook. But for me, it is all about having amazing food for whatever the day or trip lies ahead. That way, I'm not tempted by airline food. I'm not tempted by taking any risks in unknown environments. I am totally self-sufficient to travel across the world because I've got my schnitzel sandwiches. And whatever schnitzel sandwich is for you, maybe it's ham and cheese. I don't know. Maybe it's just a whack of granola bars. Do what you have to do to avoid that type of temptation and risk taking. So you're backed up. The far right picture is just me, my name badge at a conference. Conferences are usually one of the toughest things for me. So when I travel to attend conferences, I'm the guy with the knapsack, with sandwiches, with granola bars. That's kind of doing my own thing at lunchtime. I'm trying to network, but here I am with my paper bag lunch, and I'm okay with that. So I don't want it to limit business opportunities as well and business travel. And that picture down the bottom, that is a suitcase full of food, my friends. That is absolutely jam-packed with food allergy friendly and gluten-free friendly things for my wife as well. She's got celiac disease, so that is not uncommon for us to have a lot of food with us if we're going to places that we're really unsure about the cuisine. There's the close-up. Those schnitzel sandwiches. There's some cheese on there. Oh my goodness, I put a little bit of lemon zest, some hot sauce, but hey, maybe I'll make a recipe for that and post it. And then I love my granola bars too. There's always a few in my knapsack at any given time. A lot of this is a Canadian brand that's on the screen, so hopefully you can find some that are suitable for your allergens. This has been a brand that I've stuck to for years. When you're making a plan to dine out, number one, just limit the amount of surprises that could happen. Do some advanced research. Find places that will accommodate, that you'll set yourself for some success. I love making an itinerary in advance where I know where I'm going to go. And I know that takes some of the spontaneity out of travel, but I also find because I do that research, my itinerary is top notch. These places are amazing. I would have never found them if I'm just on the street looking for a place to eat. So I love using tools like Google as a starting point. Spoken is a fantastic app with a nice interactive map that you can see there, spoken.com. I also love TripAdvisor because you can go right into a restaurant. Usually I do this as a last step when I'm thinking about it and go into the reviews. And you can actually search a word in the reviews and putting something like food allergy or free from, and you can actually start to see all of the reviews that mention that specific term and gives you a really good idea of other people's experiences. A lot of restaurants, especially after COVID, put their menus online and yeah, overall make that dining itinerary. Uh, Jill, I feel like you could tag team this presentation with me. Your tips are solid gold. Remember to contribute to these reviews as well. Absolutely. We are a community and we can't just be on the take. We got to give too. So if you have a great experience, put it out there. Reward these restaurants. We know how much it's a hurting industry and they need help. So when they do well, absolutely support them, review, rate. If they do bad, what I would encourage is not just fully throw them under the bus, but is there some type of constructive criticism or feedback that you can provide them that, sometimes the training was off and there's some work to be done and you can highlight that it was a starting place, but you need to be careful as an allergic diner because they have work to do. So help out when you can, because for some places this is just somewhat new. They're still getting the hang of it. I wish everybody got the hang of it, but we're not there, unfortunately. My friend told me told me this tip when I was at the Fair Summit last month is that just knowing what's familiar. She went to China and told me that she just ate at the Cheesecake Factory every day. So I've never been to the Cheesecake Factory, but apparently she had really great success in China at the Cheesecake Factory, eating same thing after day. So knowing that there are familiar brands, I have been to China. I did eat McDonald's successfully there, so there are some familiar things. So as an absolute, base level beyond the food that you bring when you're dining out, there are familiar chains that have very familiar recipes and standards, but still do your diligence with those. Um, this is fun. Chat GPT. You found them all in China. That's great. Yeah, all of these chains, they're all over. So, how was China? How was cuisine? Well, KFC and the Cheesecake Factory were great. Uh, ChatGPT, is this a tool to help with food allergy travel? Well, hey, I love this technology for a lot of reasons, but when I plugged in a question like this, what are some food allergy friendly restaurants in Paris? It whipped out all of these answers. Well, there's gluten-free restaurant, this one, another gluten-free bakery, a vegan restaurant, 100% gluten-free sandwich shop, and vegan. So is this the answer? Are these the answers I was looking for? No, not necessarily. This is not going into specifics of food allergy and assuming vegan is coupled into that category. So, hey, is this a starting point? Could some of these places be great for food allergy? Maybe, maybe. So, I would not say base all of your decisions should be based on this tool, but neat that we have some technology that's giving us some different ideas based on mass data. It's got some fine tuning though. What are these? Oh yeah, Equal Eats cards. So totally joking. These are my babies. I'm very passionate about allergy cards, and I've been at this for a few years. So these cards, as much as I'm really thrilled about the product, I find them very helpful to communicate your food allergy in different languages as you go around the world. It's our process that really sets us apart. I am very stringent about our process. So everything from the design of these cards in English, we utilize wait staff, chefs, restaurant managers, and the food allergy celiac community individuals to make sure the design is not only what we want to say, but it balances what the food service industry needs to hear. So every single detail on these cards is there for a reason. Not everybody agrees with it because we want to say different things. But again, it's balanced, it's counterbalanced with what food industry needs to hear. So that is why we designed our cards this way. So it talks the talk, the food service talk. Then when we get into the actual translations, we have a really crazy process, expensive, but we just don't rely on the online free translators. They're riddled with errors, and I don't trust it for my food allergies, so I don't sell it to our community. We use human translators. We use professional proofreaders as our second layer, and then just to get a little extra diligent, we hire native speakers to do a final review of the cards, and they are just normal everyday speakers that we want to make sure that the cards actually talk the talk. So if you do use it in a restaurant in Vietnam, it actually will be understood. It's not on a technical translation level. So we do a lot of work on our translations just to make sure that what you're handing is going to be taken seriously. Because if that's taken seriously, then chances are you're going to be taken seriously. So equaleats.com, we have an app as well. If you prefer iOS or Android, you can just toggle through cards on your phone now. We have a comment from Jill saying we got them from Maya in a ton of languages. How inspiring. And she studied abroad in case she was able to travel to other countries. Sadly, not allowed to at the time due to COVID. Well, hey, I hope those cards come in handy for future trips. They are solid and they can stand the test of time. So I hope she gets that chance, Jill. Allergy cards important, but also remaining vigilant. This picture I love. That's my mom. That's my sister. But look at that guy in the background. That's that's me grilling the wait staff. And I never really see pictures of me in my element, but it just, I put on my smile and I try to work with them. Absolutely. I work with them. I'm kind, I'm thankful, but I am like a hawk. When someone's at the other end of the table saying, "Okay, everybody take a picture," I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I'm in the middle, finding out answers here." So yeah, same vigilance that you have at home domestically, asking about cooking oil, shared fryer, cross contact. All of our strategies are tried and true, especially when we're traveling too. There's the close up. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's the information I'm looking for, face. All right. Learn. So I'm going to give you some practical tips here to stay safe en route and at your destination. I think overall, just being here at a presentation, at a webinar is a great, important first step, wanting to learn more. So kudos to you for being with me. Knowing your emergency numbers as you go overseas, absolutely. This can be different in different countries. I think I have a poll question for this. So if you want to play along, let me put a poll out here. Okay, let's see. Match the emergency number with the country. All right, put the poll out there. Good luck. Which one's 911? I think we know that. 999, 112, and 000. Give it 3 seconds. All right, let's share the results. Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, good job. I'm gonna go to the next slide here. Yeah, and it's tricky. 911 North America, 999 in the UK, Australia 000, and in Europe, European Union 112. Yeah, I would do that pretty quickly. But yeah, good to know. The main point here is that wherever you go, this could be different. So important to be doing that type of research, researching your labels as well, label laws. This box of granola, this has about probably 15 languages on it, and that's not uncommon in Europe. So I don't even know if English is one of those languages. Oh, yeah, on the top right there, I think that's English. So it can be very convoluted, a lot of words. Knowing that you can see some bold words there, where in Europe, that is one of the labeling legislations with bolding of allergies. Um, but when I go to a grocery store abroad, I am sticking to the fresh perimeter, the fruits, the veggies, the meat, the dairy, things where I might be able to have a conversation, things where it's not prepackaged. I've had a lot of difficulty finding safe prepackaged food overseas. I won't lie. I don't think I've ever bought a chocolate bar overseas. It's very hard to find safe chocolate. So I have my treats when I'm in North America, and then when I'm abroad, I plan it very safe. Know your labeling laws. So one of the newest ones is Natasha's law in the UK, where if they're making a product on site like bread or buns, and they package it up and make it fresh, they have to label allergies on the sticker. So that was in response to a tragedy in the UK that many have heard of us with Natasha. Awesome to see, Jill, that you're working on that here in the US. It's one gap, a loophole that needs to be closed in terms of what's being made somewhere that not having to be labeled. So wonderful, huge. Yeah, I agree. Knowing the top allergens in different countries. This is a really handy chart where this is from the University of Nebraska. I'll put this up in the chat as well. It's really helpful just to see what are the priority allergens in different countries. It's not just the top nine as everywhere you go. It does change, with tomato being one of the top allergies in Korea, along with pork and peach. So very interesting as you travel, and being familiar is the most important thing. Knowing the laws as you dine out. So dining out around the world, I'll put up another helpful. This is a big long link, but it is a summary of the European Union restaurant law that came into effect in 2014, essentially saying if you dine out in the European Union and UK, they must disclose the top 14 allergens. So they can either do that in writing on the menu, so you'll see a lot of little pictures and legends, A equals peanuts, or verbally, but they must disclose it. That is the law. So if you are eating in Europe, you have every right to ask them what are the allergens in this food, and they need to have that information handy. So good to know. I would love to see this in North America. Does this solve everything? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is not. This is great to have the information. Do they have safe practices and policies about cross contact and all of these things in the kitchen? Who knows? The law doesn't cover that, but it does give you a starting point on ingredients, and you can go from there. So good to know, but also do your diligence. All right, airlines. One of the trickier things, 30,000 feet with a peanut allergy. Not easy. So let's talk about some of the risks that are on planes. I know that this is the deal breaker for many of us, is getting on an airplane with a food allergy, because it's common to see our allergens, peanuts, nuts, and obviously all the others. Whether passengers are bringing them on or you get them in the meal, it's a confined space. Reactions have happened, and it's a hard place to have a reaction when you think about what pushing the panic button really means in that situation of grounding a plane for a big group of people. A lot of people would not want that to be on their shoulders, but you have to do what you need to do. You got to do it. But there's ways to mitigate the risk. So this is not even in the equation. One of my favorite studies on this topic was, it's an old one, 2013, but it's one that just has a lot of great research-based strategies that can help lower the risk of a reaction on an airplane. So making any type of accommodation request, getting the flight crew to make an announcement, asking passengers not to consume peanuts, nuts, or your allergen, requesting a buffer zone. Now, this was all peanut, tree nut specific because it was with the study specifically, but ask about your allergen. If it's milk or wheat, asking for an allergy-free meal, wiping off the seat's tray table, eating only food brought from home. This is the one that if I had to have like neon lights around, eating your own food. Do not eat airline food. It's so tempting. It's so nice to get a free tray of warm food, but don't eat it. Give it to a friend. Trade it for something else. I don't know. Figure that out, but don't eat the food because it is a whole different ball game with label wise, and you just don't want to take that chance. So control your food, eat your own. Avoid using the airline's pillows or blankets. Yeah, if it's the second, third, fourth flight of the day and they're not brand new and fresh, requesting a certain section of the cabin, perhaps that can be helpful too. Um, Another great tip in the chat. Jill says Maya has a novel way of mitigating the risk that's a bit controversial. She does not eat at all on the travel day, and yes, that includes a 24-hour trip to China. She just feels, yeah, that she won't die from fasting for a day. Yeah, and I wouldn't say that's controversial. For each their own. If that gets them to the destination and gives them the comfort and the guts to go, do what you need to do to get there. I have the schnitzel sandwich strategy, the SSS, but for each their own, and do what you need to do. And there's no judgment. I think that's the most important thing about our community is that there's no black and white here. I'm giving very gray tips here. And what you do with it, whether you choose to eat or not, or how many EpiPens you choose to bring with you, it is up to you. But staying safe is number one. Uh, we have some rights in the US with pre-boarding with a Department of Justice decision that was made a few years ago, where pre-boarding should be offered to passengers with a disability, and they did qualify disability as someone with a severe nut allergy. So a couple notes on this because I know that there's been some inconsistency with this. This is a US decision. So a US flight, if you're expecting this with a flight out of Japan to Europe, it's not relevant. And nut allergies, which is a small percentage of all allergies. So I'm not 100% sure why it was just focused on nut allergies. So whether you will get that type of accommodation with other allergens, it can be a case by case basis trying to get on a plane, pre-boarding. So I've used it before. It's helpful. I also go on with regular boarding too, where I don't I can manage as an adult, making sure I wipe down my area as I arrive with other customers. And you can always fib. Jill says, like the insulin example, call it a nut allergy. Hey, no, I don't know if they're going to be checking your allergen charts. So your decision there. There's some helpful resources out there with airlines if you're looking for more info on rankings, on lists, on policies, allergic living, spoken. They both have some handy resources that are available where you can get some more info for specific airlines. Um, I'm not going to speak directly to any specific airline. I've had so much success with all airlines that sometimes it comes down to an individual experience where it was bad, an individual that you dealt with a flight attendant. So um, policies, protocols help, but sometimes it comes down to just a bad experience, unfortunately. If you haven't heard about the Allergy Travels group, I really, really implore you to take a look and join it. Scan that QR code it's on Facebook. It is just a wonderful community. I'm part of a few groups. Some are interesting. I'll leave it at that. But this one is just pure help and collaboration and support. So uh, one of the questions we ask is what's your dream travel destination when people join the group? And a lot of people say that you used to travel before the food allergy diagnosis. And that's a very common mindset that this is a group of people that want to travel, really do. They used to. Food allergies rock their world. And this is a group of people that want to support each other to just be trailblazers and see the world and do it safely. So from this group, it is a great group. There's some really helpful community polls that I like to put out there here and there to just use mass knowledge. There's some things that we just don't know answers to, like this. Have you ever had any difficulties bringing allergy safe food through international customs? Helpful to know. 88% said no. 11% said yes. Jill says yes. So unfortunately, yeah, there could be issues here. This just kind of gives it a point of perspective of how common that could be based on hundreds of people that have answered this poll question. So do you need to be prepared to not have food going through customs? Could they take it away? Yeah, there's a slim percentage chance. So just knowing those odds can be helpful. I'll show you a few other ones that I find helpful. What airline food allergy accommodation do you value the most? Buffer zone, onboard announcement to all passengers, pre-boarding, no nuts served during flight. This is a really, really common, just the serving of allergens. So helpful to know you're not alone in the accommodations that you're looking for. And oh, thanks, Joe, for saying what it was that caused trouble at customs. Mine needed to bring applesauce to mix with OIT, oral immunotherapy, and they deemed it a liquid. Then we got a more specific letter for the next time. Oh, yeah. And again, right, it's the learning every single trip um, to expand your comfort zone and be able to do it successfully. All right, back to the insulin versus EpiPen. Has airport security ever asked you to show a doctor's note for carrying EpiPens? Small percentage. I don't even know how that adds up. 94% plus 5%. Something's missing here. My math, I'm not no math genius, but that is very small percentage, but it happens. So is it wise to have a doctor's note? It's not unwise. Some people have been asked for it before. Someone in the chat, Jill, said yes, she's been asked. So I have personally never been asked. I don't have a doctor's note because in Canada, it's been a struggle for me to get a doctor lately. I don't have an allergist right now, and I just buy my EpiPens over the counter. So I don't have a note. I just buy them. So it's tricky. But have I had any issues? No. No, no, no. Luckily not. You can get that letter translated, as Jill mentioned in the chat. Really great idea. This is a sad one for me. How much influence do food allergies have on deciding where you travel? High influence. Look at that, 78%. So this is an overarching issue for our community that we can't just, for many of us, willy-nilly pick a spot in the map, throw a dart, and go. We really need to do our planning. So you're not alone. You're not alone in that. Some have got to the point where it's a moderate influence, and that's fantastic. Where it's in the consideration, you're thinking about it, but you're not, you got the places you want to go. Or no influence, that's great. There's a small group of people that will just go, but it's okay to be at any of those stages. What's your most common source of food while traveling? Food from grocery stores. Yeah, you can only bring so much food from home if you're staying for months and months and months, right? So getting accustomed to the grocery stores and labeling. Food at restaurants, not so much, but great if you can start venturing out to that as well. So it's a mix. And the other thing I love about this group is that there's just so many great discussions that are going on. I just put an open-ended question. What are some of the most allergy-friendly countries to travel to? And look at the range here. It's hard to say what are the top three when people just went all over the map. Canada's great, Sweden's great, UK, excellent to hear, awesome. So, when you go into a group like that, you can just say, I'm looking for ideas for travel. I'm looking to go to Italy. Any recommendations? And you're going to have a group of people who have your back. I really love it. Okay, lastly, it's time for a motivational speech. Go. Just book the ticket. Now that you know what you need to plan, the things that you need to know, just get going. Why is this all important? It is so much easier just to tuck in and get a good Netflix series going on and stay at home all winter, right? So why are we doing this to ourselves? I'm going to show you a couple examples here of people that are doing it, have done it, why they did it, and why it's so fantastic. My friend Janine Flannery went to Iceland this past year. Never been. Looks beautiful. Looks awesome. Heard it's a little pricey. It's an island, right? All islands. You got to ship that food in, but hey, I'll pay whatever to see those northern lights. Her son, I think, is about 14 years old, at an age where it's a transition age, right? In terms of taking ownership of your food allergies from parents taking the blunt of it to actually teaching the adolescent to take it on themselves. 14, I remember that age. It was tough, social, all of these things. And she thought, wouldn't that be great that to show him these skills while traveling with language barriers and all of this. So this trip, as she told me, was one where not only was it about the experience of seeing a beautiful country, but showing him firsthand before he goes off on his own as an adult in a few years of how you do it, of how you do it internationally. And throughout that trip, it was a transition from her doing the spiel at restaurants to slowly but surely himself taking over and doing it himself and using the allergy card. So I love that. This is why it's so important. I didn't get that as a teenager. I went on a trip ill prepared, ill prepared as a early 20 something. I had no idea what I was doing. So I have all the respect in the world for people like Janine that see the value and want to help their kids not be afraid of travel, but embrace it and do it safely. So, which is wonderful parenting. I love it. Kelsey, oh my goodness, allergy traveler. She is amazing, a dynamo. This is her trip to Paris last summer, and these are pictures of her literally in the kitchen, in the kitchen, talking to the chefs, talking to the staff, looking at ingredients. She's got experience working in kitchens herself, so it's an area where she's very familiar being back there. But she just went on, marched right on back in there and got to the bottom of everything. So good for her. I wish I was that type of personality. I'm not. I'm usually at my table. Jill said it found Paris to be tough. I remember finding it tough. I haven't been there in a long time. So again, a place to really do your research ahead of time and try to find some gems that maybe some people have discovered. But it is a very food-centric culture where I could only imagine that there might be some resistance of modifications of food. Um, and then, oh, there's this example. That's me. Oh my goodness. There's my sweetheart. Sweden has such a soft spot in my heart. From someone who didn't travel at all growing up to realizing I want to do something. I want to go on exchange when I was in school. And I applied to all these places, and by the luck of the draw, I got Sweden, the one place that wasn't English speaking. So I went and I ate frosted flakes for a long time and made some amazing connections. And within the first couple weeks, I met this amazing person, my wife, and this is back in 2005. Travel, uh, it really changed my life, and for a long time, allergies defined my life, and then travel changed it. It opened up my whole perspective and world, and now we live most of the year in her home country of Slovenia, a beautiful gem. Very, very basic cuisine. So I love it. It's meat and potatoes. I eat very well there and safe. And there's our little love bug of a daughter there, Zora. And between my wife's celiac disease and my food allergies, you probably wouldn't guess what our daughter is dealing with, and that is absolutely nothing. Somehow, I we're still scratching our heads, and I'm still cringing watching her eat Nutella and the things I'm allergic to. It's weird, and it's a mind trip. So whenever we can't eat anything, we've always got her to clean up the rest. So really, yeah, our life has just been so blessed because of travel, and that's why it's worth it. It can change you, changes your perspective. It throws you into amazing circles of people and cultures that you otherwise just wouldn't have had. Four really quick ending stories here. Awareness is different around the globe. I've had so many experiences where gluten-free is understood and vegan, but not food allergy. And when I said food allergy, they're saying, okay, we get it. We do gluten-free, and it's different. So be aware of that. Food is different. In China, I ordered milk tea, thinking it was tea with milk. And then luckily, so luckily, I stirred it. Just, took off the lid, stirred it around, and there was chopped almonds, thick chopped almonds all at the bottom of the cup. Very, very, very close call. Bring US cash. I haven't had to use this for an allergy related thing, but my daughter got sick when we were in St. Lucia years ago, and to have a doctor actually look at us quickly, money talked, money talked. So I think it was about $100 to have a doctor visit, and that moved things right along. So not to say that that would be needed in an anaphylactic reaction, but it certainly didn't hurt to get some medical attention, having some US cash, and that might be helpful as you get a little bit more off the grid. Bring extra epinephrine. I had one crazy New Year's in Belgrade, Serbia. It was so much fun. I lost my epinephrine that night. I went out to party and I only had one with me. Luckily, I had one back at my apartment, so I had one that night, but there was a period of time when I didn't have it. And the next day, oh my goodness, we played Dude, Where's My Epi? Trying to retrace our steps of where did we party last night, and eventually found it. But important to always stick with your plan, always having two epinephrine auto injectors with you at all time. All right, final story, and then we're going to wrap it up and we just talk, ask questions. My trip to China. I once crossed it off. I never thought I would go to that part of the world because of my allergies to peanuts and tree nuts. I just thought that's not happening. So I was, North American traveler, and then my wife got an opportunity to go to a summer school there for 3 weeks, and I didn't want her to go alone. I wanted to be a part of that. So we planned and planned. I was determined to make this work. So all of these tips that I've shared with you followed to a T. And then some extra. We got there and we bought a hot plate. And our tiny little room, we cooked every single meal for 3 weeks on the floor of our little room. We made rice, we made pasta, we made chili. It was not the cuisine that you would probably dream of going to China, but for us, we felt safe and we got to experience a beautiful culture, a beautiful country, amazing beaches. We just have so many amazing memories of that trip and just wonderful feelings that we did it. We accomplished it. It was a place that I said I would never do. And I think that's my overarching message to you in this presentation is that it's normal, absolutely normal to think that way, that we can't do it, that we have this condition and it's going to limit us on what we can do. And slowly but surely, with steps and growing of comfort and planning, you'll get to a point where you can do it and you're going to feel so great about it. And I think if anything, that is so empowering, not only about your relationship with travel, but your relationship overall with food allergies and self-advocacy. You can do anything. If you can go to China with food allergies, I had an extra spring in my step when I went back to Canada after that, that if I can do it there, I can do it anywhere. So my next trips, you probably guessed it. They're big adventurous trips that I want to do. I want to go to Cambodia and I want to go to Laos and I want to go to Vietnam and some other in Thailand, places that I crossed off a long time ago that are now at the very top of my list. And I feel very alive because of that. I've given you a lot of resources throughout here. Here's a QR code to scan where you can get to a page with all of them summarized. If you're looking for extra support, Ali Bond is fantastic. She gives some specific consulting for people that are looking for a little bit more advice, support, coaching. So she's got a website at missallergicreactor.com, and she's a great resource if you're looking for a little bit more hand-holding and assistance. So that's it. I am giving you the ticket, though. I'm not paying for it. I'm giving you the virtual ticket here to travel with food allergies and make the most of this life that we're given, even though we have this diagnosis in tow. See the world, do it safely. It's doable. It's not easy, but it's absolutely doable. There's all my handles, emails. So feel free to get in touch if you have any other specific questions. I'd be happy to answer anything more. So thank you for joining. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. I look forward to hearing where you go and your adventures. And lastly, I'll just put up this slide of some of our tips from the food allergy travels community about what advice they would give to someone who's a little bit anxious or nervous about traveling for the first time. So some really helpful, inspiring tips there. If there's any questions, I would love to hear from you. I know we have a small audience, but please feel free. Chat, unmute. Happy to answer anything more. For the people that are watching the recording, I'm going to end the recording now. So I really appreciate you tuning in and safe travels.